Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining today. My name is Mike Fenoy. I'm the head of marketing and product at Assure. And today we are going to unpack the topic of COBRA legislation. We're going to make this a two-part series because there's a bunch of stuff that we do know, but there's also some unanswered questions that we don't that we need to get further details on for entrepreneurs and small business owners, and we're going to share that with you as soon as we get that information. The expert on this topic at Assure is Heather James. She's our manager of benefits operations, and welcome, Heather.
Thank you.
So here's what we're going to do. We're going to break down the things that we know about the latest legislative changes as it relates to COBRA, and make sure that, for me, the goal today is to make sure that small business owners, entrepreneurs, managers of mid-sized companies, that they know exactly how this impacts them and what they need to do. There's lots of, I'd say, pretty wonky policy kind of stuff that probably is interesting, but there's a couple really big points here that we want to hit that everyone needs to know how this is going to impact their business. So I think maybe, Heather, if you could, most people probably know what the American Rescue Plan Act is. We've done webinars on it. We've got plenty of content on our website. So we don't need to break down the entire law, but as it relates to COBRA, could you just kind of high-level overview for everyone, what is it about the American Rescue Plan Act as it relates to COBRA?
Great, yeah, thanks, Mike. So this is also known as the COVID-19 stimulus package. Also, people are referring to it as the ARP. So there's a lot of acronyms and terminologies out there surrounding, the signed rescue plan by President Biden. So basically what this is it's giving a special election period for those individuals that would be eligible during, whether they're in their election period, whether, they're currently on COBRA, whether they took that opportunity to not elect COBRA, maybe because of cost, they couldn't afford it, maybe they elected it and, paid for a few months and then stopped it, canceled. So this is going to benefit all of those people that, are in all of those different surrounding situations. So there's two groups that are going to be eligible for that, which we'll go into further into the webinar, but that's pretty much what it is, dating back to COBRA events to 2019 in November is the period that this is going to affect over that 18-month maximum coverage period.
Okay, very good. So lots of stuff in the huge bill of the American Rescue Plan Act for ARPA, but specifically as it relates to COBRA, some changes there. Okay, yep. So let's just dive in. And what are these new regulations regarding the COBRA subsidy?
So the Internal Revenue Service and the Department of Labor is, actively preparing this model notice. We are expecting to get that hopefully by April 10th, if not sooner. So we're all kind of waiting with bated breath. I mean, obviously we all kind of get the gist of it and we understand, kind of what's going on, but there are kind of more details to come, especially as it gets further into, how these employers are going to receive these funds back. But ideally right now, our focus is on just getting all the proper notifications out, getting all of the, re-notifications out to, all of the people that are going to be affected. So definitely more to come in the future, once that information is released and digested. And I think as people start to understand and really, focus on what the next steps are.
So Heather, you talk about notices, but you also mentioned re-notices. So I think most employers understand, with COBRA, it's continue. You got to offer continuing insurance for employees. It's out of their pocket when they're no longer with you. A big part of the compliance part of that law is the expectation and requirement to notify employees of their rights, right? That's yep. Notification is a huge part of it. But you talk about the re-notification. Can you talk a little bit what that means? Because I suspect if somebody had a term an employee a few months ago, call it December of 20. And they notified them, they might believe that they are compliant with COBRA, but you're suggesting that maybe they're not.
Correct. So everybody's going to get a re-notification. So, once that model notice is released, we are going to have 60 days to re-notify everybody. So by May 31st, All of those re-notifications need to go out to anybody that had a qualifying event dating back to November of 2019. So this is going to be your people that, never elected. Maybe they elected and failed to pay. They elected and maybe paid a few months and then canceled or terminated for non-payment. Or they voluntarily quit the COBRA because they just couldn't afford it anymore. Those are all of the people that are going to be re-notified, and they will have another 60-day window. So normal standard COBRA notification is you get 60 days to elect COBRA. So everybody is going to be going through the re-notification period to have another opportunity to elect COBRA. And again, we'll go further into that. I know on some of the future slides, it's going to get a little bit more granular as far as what that means and how the COBRA has changed. We all know COBRA to be, you have 60 days to elect, 45 days to make your first payment, and it's retroactive, reinstated back to the date that your active policy ends. This act is actually going to change that for the people that never elected or terminated during, their COBRA period, or, fell behind on payments. So this act is going to actually change what we know in the world of COBRA today, and they'll be moving forward with a different effective date, matching up with the subsidy that starts 4/1 of 21.
So if you're listening today and you're an Assure customer and you use us for COBRA administration, you're covered. You don't have to worry. This is information only. But if you're not an Assure customer, or maybe an Assure customer but don't use us for COBRA administration, you're on the hook. You've got to notify terminated employees, and even if you did, you've got to notify them of the re-notification period as well. So I think that's the takeaway here. Let's talk about qualifications. So who does qualify for this, Heather?
So the two different groups of people that are going to qualify in this are going to be your involuntary terminations. These are also people, that maybe were laid off, if you had a reduction in force. So these are people that, you have let go from your company. That's also going to impact the people that were in reduction of hours. So if you've gone part-time or lost your full-time status, which, inadvertently you lose benefits because you fall between the hours that you no longer are eligible for full-time benefits, it's going to impact these people as well. So these are the two groups that are going to be part of that re-notification process. And this is also going to include their families. So if you have a spouse on your plan, dependents, if you're a full family, the broader explanation from the DOL, obviously is coming, and we'll provide more details onto that. But this is going to impact you and your families, that, suffer involuntary or reduction in hours.
And so just to make sure we're explicit on this, so involuntary, so that means you let the person go, and it doesn't, that would be the same whether you terminated someone for performance and wanted them out the door, or whether you loved them but the COVID impacted your business and you just simply had to do layoffs. It doesn't matter the reason, right?
Correct. Now, we're hoping in the coming days, as we get more information from the DOL, they are supposed to provide a little bit more identity to the involuntary termination. I know, when you look at COBRA, there are reasons where you wouldn't have to offer COBRA. A lot of times that falls under gross misconduct. We are not sure if that's going to play out in this scenario as well. So again, more information to come from the DOL if they're even going to highlight or outline that. But as we know today, from what we've received so far, again, you're right, Mike. It's anybody that was laid off from the company, whether it's performance, whether it was just reduction in force. These people are going to be re-notified as we know it today.
Yeah, very good. Okay, all right. So let's talk about so we know who's eligible. What about the effective period? What changes have there been there?
So, again, everybody's going to be re-notified that was in an involuntary status or reduction in force dating back to qualifying event of November 1st of 2019. Now, for the people that never elected, or the people that elected and maybe paid through like December and then they fell off the plan because they, it was just not a cost that they could, afford any longer, or, maybe they decided that, hey, I'm just, I'm going to cancel, I'm just going to stop paying. These people are going to be re-notified, but they are not going to have coverage reinstated retro back to whatever their original qualifying event date was. They are going to move forward from 4/1 of 2021 through 9/30 with the subsidy period. Now, that's granted of depending on however long their COBRA is left. So if your COBRA ends, May 31st, you will have the subsidy from April through May. This is not extending the 18 months of COBRA for members. So if you only have a month left of COBRA, 2 months left of COBRA, your COBRA will end, even though the subsidy is still in place through the end of September. So if you never elected and you were offered COBRA back in December of 2020, at this point, you will move forward with a start date of 4/1 of 2021, and that being subsidized through September 30th. So there is no retroactive back to the date that your active policy ended. You're basically going to jump on and be effective from 4/1 on. Now, for people obviously that are on COBRA and they're continuously paying each month, then obviously, their COBRA will be subsidized from April through, September 30th, or however long that their COBRA goes till.
So basically, if I didn't elect COBRA coverage because I couldn't afford it, I got laid off back in December and I couldn't afford the payment, so I declined COBRA coverage. I now can, because it's just reopening the window and creating a new starting point for me, a new effective date.
Correct. Yeah, which is so, so unknown to COBRA, because COBRA is always just so very straightforward. It's, you elect and you're reinstated retro back to the date your active policy ended. This act changes that for the people that never did elect or terminated or, waived and then decided now they want it. They will move forward with an April 1st start date. So,
but the reimbursement portion is only from April 1 go forward, or will they be reimbursed for the prior months as well? Because so you're saying coverage does not retro go back to a term date. The new coverage date begins 4/1 also?
that is correct.
Got it. Okay. So that is a gap then, right? Because otherwise with COBRA, you could have sat on your hands for 59 days, right, and not elected COBRA, but you have a medical event, you could have elected COBRA and it still would have been qualified.
Correct.
But that wouldn't be the case here, right? So like if,
No.
yeah.
Yep. Yeah, which is, it's all new to us because, anyone that knows COBRA, it's pretty cut and dry. It's, you have your 60 days to elect, you make your payment within the 45 days for that first payment, and then every payment forward is, due at the first of every month with a 30-day grace period. I mean, it's always been that way for COBRA, but this, actually changes things a lot. So, if you never elected and now you're electing in this re-election window, your coverage will be effective for 4/1. So you will have that lapse of coverage. Now, keep in mind, these are for people that don't have benefits or don't have an opportunity to take another benefit. So, if you're currently enrolled in a plan, you can't drop that plan and now elect COBRA and take advantage of this subsidy. So this is for people that do not have any other options available to them. So if you have the ability to jump on your employer's plan, or if you have the eligibility to jump on your spouse's plan, you do not qualify for this subsidy. These are people that do not have any other options.
Right. And then how does the subsidy work then? Does the employee, the former employee, get reimbursed? Does the employer get reimbursed? How does the money flow?
Yeah, so the employer is actually going to be fronting these premiums. So, basically what we're going to be doing, from an administration standpoint, is we will be coding these premiums as subsidies. So we will not be collecting premiums from the COBRA participants or AEIs. the employer will actually be fronting these premiums to their insurance carriers each month, and then they will be receiving the tax credit on a quarterly basis, which more information to come on that, obviously. But the employer, just kind of similar to the way it was back in 2009 with ARA, the employer is going to be the one to, to have to wait for their reimbursement or credit back.
Yeah, and so I'll reserve further questions. I guess I think we're going to dive a little deeper on that. But so the two biggies so far here for small business owners. Number one is there's a new compliance measure. It's this re-notification that you have to follow the law, and so you got to understand the re-notification. And then number two, the subsidy. It's still the employer who has to front the bill, and then you will get reimbursed from Treasury, from the government. So these are two things that are incremental new burdens on employers as this law helps to subsidize and kind of take care of those people who are hurt and uncovered. Am I capturing that right, Heather?
Yeah, absolutely, Mike.
Yeah. All right. So I know you live this every day, so this is easy stuff for you, but effective periods, election periods, they all sound the same to most entrepreneurs who are just trying to make a living and grow their business every day. So we talked here about the effective period. What's the difference between an effective period and an election period? And what are the new election periods?
So the new election periods really right now, again, they're just all going to get a new 60-day window. So very similar to COBRA fashion, you get 60 days to elect. So this period, so, as an administrator or an employer, if you're doing your COBRA in-house, we have, to give that new 60-day window. So, based on whenever the model notice comes out, hopefully soon, but we will have until May 31st to set that up and send that out to give them that new 60-day election window. So the notices will go out to them, obviously letting them know, hopefully the model notice is actually going to be a little bit more descriptive as far as who qualifies and, what category you fall in. So, if you're currently enrolled, if you're somebody that's, that waived that coverage or never elected, that's going to be specified on that new COBRA package. And then, of course, like I said, that new 60-day window starts over and starts ticking again. So that's basically, what that is as far as, the election period is the 60 days. And then, of course, the election window is that dating back to November 1 of 2019.
Okay, very good. Next topic, and this is kind of where I was going in the previous question, who needs to actually provide the subsidy? Because I think there's the compliance issue is big for employers, but there's the financial requirement to fund this until you get reimbursed from the employer. This is no joke, right? This is a serious thing. So talk us through what that requirement is and who has to comply.
Yeah, so COBRA generally applies to all private sector group health plans maintained by employers that had at least 20 employees or more than 50% of their typical business days in a previous calendar year. So this is going to be all group plans, including self-insured, self-funded plans subject to COBRA and state continuation. The only plan that's not going to fall under this is going to be the flexible spending account. So we all know that you can COBRA FSA if it's not overspent. But this is actually not going to fall under the subsidy. This is going to be your medical, your dentals, your vision plans. And this is, for both full-time and employees that are counted to determine whether a plan is subject to COBRA. So that's pretty much what it is. So it's, if you're offering COBRA today and you're required to offer COBRA today, you fall under this umbrella. You fall into this category to get these re-notifications out. Otherwise, there are, I think we got updated yesterday from the DOL that it's $100 a day per participant and $200 per day, if there's family involved, if these notifications are not sent out to the AEIs that are eligible.
All right, so this is the place I want to pause for a second. It isn't really be clear for our audience, because I think I'm certain, as I talk to customers and have friends and family and personal involvement in many businesses, I think most entrepreneurs are, they're kind of white knuckling it, right? And they're going as hard as they can to build and grow a business. And maybe once you reach a certain level of maturity in your business, you understand all the laws and what's required of you. So we got plenty of people on today's call that understand COBRA requirements. Do they have to comply or not based on their situation? I think we got plenty of people who probably don't really understand this crisply. So the Affordable Care Act, ACA, says anybody over 50 employees must provide healthcare plans, right? And so this is not ACA. This is COBRA, which says if you provide a healthcare plan. So if you have 20, so greater than 20 employees, if you have 21 employees, but you as a business provide healthcare to your employees, you qualify.
Correct.
If you have 19 employees and provide healthcare to your employees, this does not impact you, correct?
Correct. And I am waiting for a little bit more guidance on that because, we also have the mini COBRA that's out there, which, is for the smaller groups that don't have 20 or more employees. So we're hoping in the days to come that the DOL is going to kind of categorize that a little bit more and provide some more definition if that category is going to fall into it. So right now we're just acting with what we know from a normal COBRA standpoint, which is, the 20 or more employees offering, benefit plans.
Yeah, very good. Okay, awesome. Thanks, Heather. Last couple topics here. What is the time frame for the subsidy period?
So the subsidy period is going to be from April 1st of 2021 through September 30th of 2021. Those are where the subsidy credits are going to apply for those months. So again, I always like to reiterate, this is not extending COBRA. So if you, re-elect in this new election window and you only have, COBRA, your 18 months is due to end June 30th, you're only going to get the subsidy for April, May, and June. So this, just because the subsidy goes through 9/30 doesn't mean your COBRA extends. So whatever time remaining you have left, during that subsidy window, those months will be paid for. And then, of course, if you're newly on COBRA or newly offered COBRA, then obviously, you will, reap the benefits of having that whole 6 months paid for. But that is the window where the subsidy credits are going to apply, is going to be from the April 1st through 9/30th of 2021.
Okay. So last topic, and this is a little open-ended. We said at the top, we're going to break this into a two-part series. So that's a whole bunch of stuff we do know. And I think it's the biggest, most important stuff for employers to understand. But to talk us through some what are the open-ended questions that you as an administrator on behalf of clients that, somebody in a position who knows this stuff that we just don't know. It's not just Assure, it's the marketplace. You're waiting, we're waiting, all waiting for additional guidance from the Department of Labor, DOL.
Right. Yeah. So hot item top list is our model notice, due to be released April 10th.
And what does that mean, our model notice?
So the model notice is, that's going to be the explanation of all of this. This is, the information that is going to be required to go out on the, the normal, as we know it, COBRA package. So the model notice is going to kind of break down, and it's going to explain this act more in a descriptive manner, which, helps, people like us that administer this, clients that are doing this in-house. This is kind of our instruction manual, but it's also providing the instruction to the members, that are going to be electing COBRA. Some of the other things that, we're obviously waiting on more clarification for is, these tax credits. How are these employers going to, receive these credits? Obviously, we know from, just from what we all read and what, we've, heard so far, that they'll get these in the form of tax credits on a quarterly basis, but obviously we're looking for more definition into that so we can be a little bit more explicit. So this is huge even from the payroll side of things. So, they're having to understand, how to assist clients from that perspective.
Yeah, I mean, last week's webinar was all the entire topic we talked about is the gigantic backlog at IRS. I know IRS and DOL are not the same thing, but if the Department of Labor's mechanism for reimbursing employers is through the tax return, this is all kind of commingled into this gigantic backlog at IRS right now too.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's huge. And there's so many moving parts. There's so many areas to interpret. There's so many gray areas too. If anyone that's listening is like me and has been reading up on this stuff, it's mind boggling. But I think I had to finally take a break the other day. So like, I can't read anymore. So it's just kind of information overload at this point. And I know everyone's feeling it, from, the clients and the brokers that we work with, it's just everybody it's like, we need this step-by-step bulleted, instruction manual. It's like, tell us what to do, make us understand, what you guys are doing out there. So, I think we're all feeling the pain and the stress of it. So, I'll be happy to get this model notice and get some definite more clarification, as I'm sure everybody listening is probably looking for that as well. So definitely exciting stuff in the COBRA world today.
It is in a world that hasn't seen a lot of change really since the Clinton administration, right? I mean, this has been a fairly steady state legal requirement that's pretty well understood. But man, like everything COVID, there's been more HR in payroll tax impacted legislation in the last 18 months, in the last 12 months. I think we're right at the 1 year anniversary for FFCRA and CARES. There's been, and all the guidance that has come out since then, more legislation in the last 12 months than there has been in the last 12 years. So it's a little crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. I know. I feel like we're all due a big break somewhere. It's coming. I know it.
You know what? And that's a good segue. I think we all see light at the end of the tunnel. We're having more and more mass vaccine events. I think it's just becoming more and more evident of the world reopening. But it's also true that I think the echoes of COVID on the business world are going to be long lasting. And so this is something from a legislative and a compliance perspective we're going to be dealing with for quite a while yet. One of the things that I want to talk about, so we're going to do a part 2, probably in the 2 to 3, 4 week range here, Heather, with you on COBRA as you get more clarification from DOL. Next week's a really, really important topic. We're gonna unpack the employee retention tax credits. So really encourage everyone to join this. If you're a small business owner, you're running a small business, mid-sized company, there is gigantic dollars on the table for you as a business in the form of stimulus. So a couple teasers here. Number one, in 2020, you had a choice to either, if you were eligible, you had a choice to either take PPP funds or take advantage of the employee retention tax credit. The retention tax credit, it was complex. It is complex. Doing the math is not straightforward. There's a lot of nuance. There's a lot of things you got to know to prepare the tax credit. And so it was pretty clear for almost everybody. It was more stimulus money available in PPP, and it was a heck of a lot less complex, right? It was really your bank working with the SBA, but it was really you and working with your bank and providing them the documentation they needed to feel comfortable they could certify that you were eligible and what the funds were going for. This is much more specific and complex, and I'd say nuanced in the RTC. But the December 27th legislation modifying CARES and FFCRA stimulus packages made it retroactive. And so really this has gone on about 3 months now that we could, people who took PPP funds in 2020 have been eligible for employee retention tax credits. But again, I think PPP dominated the news, right? Because that was all of a sudden the new Biden administration and that the new act, along with the Trump administration's December 27th amendments, all the noise was about PPP. That's where the money was. But there is a ton of money. So to net it out, for 2020, you can retroactively, if you qualify, get up to $5,000 per employee in the form of an employee retention tax credit. For 2021, you have the opportunity for $10,000 per employee. So just look retroactively. If you're an employer, a small business owner with 10 employees, and you took PPP money, and so maybe you didn't even know what ERTC was, maybe you did, but you took PPP instead. If you have 10 employees and you qualify, you're talking $5,000 times 10. That's $50,000. That's no joke that you can put into your business by retroactively filing a 941X. That's an amended quarterly payroll tax return. And we're going to unpack all the details of that next week. Who qualifies, what you need to do, how we can help. This is a really, really big deal. I'd say PPP is probably the single biggest stimulus for small businesses that maybe ever. I think the ERTC is next in line, and it just hasn't captured the headlines, but this is about to explode. So we really want to unpack that with everybody next week and help everybody get as much stimulus money as they can. So with that, Heather, I want to thank you for joining us today. Look forward to our next conversation. Thanks everyone else for joining us. This is what we do. We're in the business of providing payroll and HR services for over 60,000 small businesses. And we would love to help you stay compliant, save money, and grow your business. Until next time, Heather, I will talk to you later. And everyone else, thanks so much.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, everyone.